Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Permit me to appreciate SICAF, particularly for inviting me to speak at this event and to share what the African Working Group on Gender and Climate Change is doing in Africa. Well, first and foremost, African Working Group on Gender and Climate Change bridges the gap between science and policy in gender and climate change, as well as accelerate implementation of gender-responsive climate change policies and financing. We also try to coordinate and provide leadership in Africa's engagement in the regional and global gender and climate change processes at the UNFCCC, but also at the African level with the AUC. We try to also look at how we can draft and submit African position on gender and climate change to the SBI, and also working with the regional bodies, such as the ECOWAS, the COMESA, trying to provide information to them on how they can engage positively on issues of climate change. So far, some of the activities that we have been able to undertake is to build the capacity of national policymakers and African group of negotiators to mainstream gender into national climate change processes and negotiations. And why did we do this? Because we discovered that there was a complete disconnect between the negotiators, who are mostly male-dominated, to that of the female gender. And so we felt that there was a need for us to engage them at this level, so that when we come for negotiations, we'll be on the same pace, and not when the men will be talking differently and the women will be talking differently, including the youths. We also build capacity of women on negotiations and leadership skills to ensure that more women attend global and national decision-making meetings, support African countries to develop gender-responsive adaptation and mitigation plans such as the NDCs, NAPs, CSAs framework. A couple of African countries at the moment have even developed their gender and climate change action plans at the national level, because we felt that if we are talking about climate change and you don't have a plan to engage at the national level, then how do you engage at the continental level? So it's part of what the African Working Group on Gender and Climate Change is engaging the national focal points at the, to make sure that they have these plans. Because if you have your NDCs and you don't have a document that show what plans you have for the gender, then it means at the end of 2030, you will not be meeting that goal, which is goal number 13. We also provide a platform for discussion on gender and climate change in Africa. Prior to this, there was no platform. And we started this in 2013 when we discovered that there was really no platform. Most of the African women that come for negotiations, even at the UNFCCC or any part of negotiations at all, we just go there individuals or even as nationals. So there was no coordination point. So for us, we felt that it was very key that we begin to look at this issue, and as we're coming to Bonn now, we come with one voice, and not just one voice, with a document that we can upload to the UNFCCC to see that this is the African women's position, but not just the African women's position, but also the African group of negotiators key into it. We also try to contribute to the engineering of adaptation financing the various UNFCCC financing processes, including the least developed countries, funds, special climate change fund, adaptation fund, and newly established green climate fund, climate investment funds. Members of, comprised of experts from national, we have members that are nationals, government, civil society organizations, CBOs, academia, and also international researchers. And we are affiliated at the moment to the CAOSAC. CAOSAC is a Conference of African Head of States on Climate Change and Youth Program in Africa, which the ministers and the African Head of States came up with this and felt that it was an important decision that they needed to take to address the issues of climate change. So they have this particular program that addresses just gender and climate change within the framework of African Union. So why is gender mainstreaming for Africa important? Well, gender mainstreaming itself is not an end, but it's a strategy. It's a strategy, an approach and a means to achieve the goal of gender equality. Sometimes when we're negotiating, I know that as a negotiator, the African group does not want to hear gender equality. They always want to hear gender integration or gender equity, because they feel that equality is a relative term and is generic and covers, it means a lot of things that is not acceptable by the African group of negotiators. So most of the times we try to look at the issues of equity and also the issue of integration. Gender mainstreaming in adaptation is based on the understanding that women and men have different life experiences, needs, vulnerabilities, coping strategies, priorities, and that are differently affected by climate change, just as Toya said in her presentation. Gender mainstreaming into climate change adaptation aims at overcoming existing gender imbalances in the society and improving resilience to climate change impacts. This, I don't need to do much on it, because I know that the previous speaker talked extensively about it. Now, the process of mainstreaming gender into climate adaptation in Africa, we have tried to look at how we can increase institutional capacity for gender mainstreaming, enacting gender-responsive policy program and project cycle, gender analysis in climate change adaptation, adaptation interventions for gender equality in climate change adaptation, and then gender-responsive criteria in monitoring and evaluation. Then we have a specific checklist for promoting institutional commitment to gender mainstreaming into adaptation actions. And this, we are doing it, although at the moment we have not covered the whole of Africa, but we are working with some countries, and we are hoping that in due course, of course, this is something that every African country will be taking upon. Now, we have very good case studies that, in terms of what we have done so far, that you could practically see. And one of the case studies is the gender mainstreaming in Swaziland policies. Swaziland has made progress in promoting gender in alignment with regional and international commitments in providing equitable opportunities for women and men, boys and girls at all levels, women empowerment and social justice. Swaziland enacted and implemented a national gender policy. And this policy conducts capacity building for gender mainstreaming in all national and sectorial policies, at the same time strengthening partnership with development partners, NGOs, and community leaders for gender equity and the empowerment of women and girls, mobilizing at all levels for social transformation on gender issues and for the implementation of the gender policy. So what are the benefits of gender mainstreaming in Swaziland? We have equal and meaningful participation for women and men at all levels of programs. All leadership positions must be 50% women and men. That is the good thing that is happening in Swaziland now. Increasing access and control of productive resources, example, laws that permits women to inherit land, which land is a serious thing in Africa. Women assessing weather information and agricultural inputs for sugarcane production. Case number two, which comes from my own country, Nigeria, has to do with the Aquaculture by Coastal Life Initiative, as an NGO, and it talks about the issue of fishing community, which is being threatened by climate change due to increase of sea-storm surge into the community, in tourist and salt water intrusion. So with this, Colleen identify women and children as the most affected by the changes in the fishery. Men are not as vulnerable since they migrate to neighboring communities. And of course, in every situation where you have the climate-induced problems, the men migrate, but the women are left in those communities. So they are the ones that bear the brunt of all these things. So this project tried to address some of those issues, and it has been very effective. Case number three, which is women-led energy platforms in Mali. And as you can see from this, these are some of the things that the women are doing with the energy. And this provides the time that they would have been wasting to go out in the field to look for firewood, to look for so many things. They are using this to generate some sorts of income for themselves, but also it helps them. The ratio of dropout of school girls has been reduced drastically as a result of this project. Challenges of gender mainstreaming: we have low representation of gender experts on decision-making platform, and that is the truth. As we are here now, the women representation at the negotiations are very few from African countries, and it has been a huge problem for us. And so we are looking at how we can increase that. Low appreciation of importance of gender mainstreaming in programs and projects. Programs focus on institutionalization of gender procedures, policies, and rather on outcomes, limited human and financial resources available for gender mainstreaming. Existing gender strategies are not informed by gender research and analysis. There are though opportunities that are out there. A lot of them, we need to do a lot of research to be able to tackle some of those things. There are also indigenous knowledge that can be enhanced from the African perspective. We know that there's a shift in gender analysis for distributional to relational. Institutionalizing gender mainstreaming in adaptation actions with tangible outcomes is also an opportunity. Thank you very much.